The invitation wasn't meant as kindness, it was bait. They wanted to see me broken, still that awkward girl they tormented. But when my helicopter landed on their venue's rooftop, and I stepped out in Valentino with my husband, their champagne glasses froze mid-air. This is how the loser won. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping story of revenge and redemption, smash that subscribe button right now. This isn't just another transformation story. This is about crushing every person who ever underestimated you. Stay until the very end, because the final twist will make you want to stand up and cheer. Now let me take you back to the hell that started it all. My name is Amelia, and 10 years ago I was the girl everyone loved to hate. I'm not exaggerating when I say my high school years were a living nightmare. Picture this. A 16-year-old girl, overweight, wearing clothes that belonged to her dead mother, thick glasses held together with tape, and carrying the weight of a world that had already beaten her down before she even got to homeroom. My mother died of cancer when I was 15. My father had abandoned us when I was 10, and the last I heard, he was serving time in prison for theft. I lived with my aunt, but calling her a guardian would be generous. She was an alcoholic who spent my social security checks on vodka and lottery tickets. I worked night shifts at a greasy diner just to afford food and basic necessities. I was surviving, not living, and everyone at school knew it. Jessica Warren was the queen of our school, beautiful, rich, and cruel in ways that still make my stomach turn. She had this ability to find your deepest insecurity and weaponize it with surgical precision. Her boyfriend, Brandon Cole, was the star quarterback, tall, handsome, and just as vicious when he wanted to be. And then there was Whitney Parks, Jessica's loyal sidekick, who would do anything to stay in her good graces. The cafeteria incident happened on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were when they served the only decent meal I could afford with my lunch voucher. I was carrying my tray, trying to be invisible like always, when Jessica stuck her foot out. I went flying. Food exploded everywhere, spaghetti in my hair, sauce on my clothes, and the sound of 200 students laughing. But it got worse. Someone recorded it. By the end of the day, the video was everywhere with the hashtag #FatAmelia trending locally. I couldn't escape it. Even at my diner job, customers would recognize me and snicker. Then came the locker room horror. Whitney started a rumor that I had diseases. Within days, someone spray-painted "diseased cow" across my locker in bright red letters. The principal made them clean it, but the words had already burned into my brain deeper than any paint could reach. But the worst, the absolute worst, was prom. I had saved every penny from my diner shifts for 3 months to buy one decent dress. Just one night where I could feel normal, maybe even pretty. Brandon approached me 2 weeks before prom and asked me to go with him. I couldn't believe it. Maybe, I thought, maybe people can change. Maybe he saw something in me worth knowing. I was so stupid, so desperately, pathetically stupid. Prom night, I waited outside the venue for 2 hours. He never came. Jessica had orchestrated the whole thing. She made sure everyone knew about it, made sure dozens of people drove by to take pictures of me standing there alone in my cheap dress, mascara running down my face. Those photos were posted everywhere. I was tagged in every single one. The breaking point came during morning announcements a week later. Jessica had somehow gotten access to the intercom system, and she announced to the entire school that my father was in prison. She shared details I'd never told anyone. The shame, the humiliation. It was suffocating. That night, I sat in my aunt's bathroom with a bottle of pills in my hand. I wanted it to end. I wanted the pain to stop. But then I remembered my mother's last words to me in that hospital bed. She grabbed my hand with what little strength she had left and whispered, "Survive, baby. Just survive." So I put the pills down. But something inside me changed that night. The sadness turned into something harder, something colder. It turned into fury. Graduation day was Jessica's final performance. During the unofficial ceremony in the parking lot, she handed out joke awards. Mine said, "Most likely to stay a loser forever." Brandon poured beer on my head while everyone laughed and cheered. I stood there, soaking wet, and made a silent vow. I would destroy them. Not with violence, not with cruelty, but with something they could never touch: success. I left town that night with $200 in a backpack. I never looked back. Community college was my starting point. I worked 3 jobs: the diner, a grocery store, and cleaning offices at night. I slept 4 hours a night if I was lucky, but I was hungry. Not for food, though I lived on ramen and gas station coffee. I was hungry for more. I taught myself coding through free online courses. I learned graphic design, digital marketing, social media strategy. Every skill that could make me valuable, I absorbed like my life depended on it. Because it did. My first client paid me $500 to build a website for their small business. I reinvested every penny. Then came another client and another. By the time I was 22, I was running a small digital marketing agency from my tiny apartment. I had 2 employees and big dreams. Then I landed the client that changed everything, a struggling Fortune 500 company that needed a complete digital overhaul. My campaign for them went viral. Their stock jumped 40% in 3 months. Suddenly, I wasn't just Amelia, the girl from nowhere. I was Amelia, the marketing genius. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Companies I'd only dreamed about were begging to work with me. By 25, my company was valued at $30 million. Tech magazines started calling me the Phoenix, the girl who rose from ashes. That's when I met Christopher Hayes. Christopher was at a tech conference where I was giving a keynote speech about overcoming adversity. I didn't know he was in the audience. I didn't know that this devastatingly handsome British billionaire, worth nearly $4 billion, was watching me. After my speech, he found me backstage. His first words were, "I don't invest in companies, I invest in warriors, and you, Amelia, are a warrior." Christopher was an orphan. His parents died in a car accident when he was 8, and he'd built his entire empire from nothing. He understood hunger. He understood pain. He understood what it meant to claw your way up from hell. Over the next few months, he pursued me relentlessly but respectfully. He wanted to invest in my company, but more than that, he wanted to know me. I resisted at first. I was too focused on my plan, my revenge. But Christopher saw through me. He hired a private investigator and discovered my past. When he confronted me with it, I expected pity. Instead, he said, "You're building an empire to prove something to ghosts. Build it for yourself." That night, I cried for the first time in 8 years. And somewhere in that breakdown, I fell in love with him. 6 months later, he proposed with an 18-carat pink diamond on the rooftop of my company headquarters. We got married in Paris in an intimate ceremony that felt like a dream. Our companies merged, creating a combined worth of $500 million. I was personally worth $180 million. I had everything I'd fought for. But there was still one thing left undone. I hired a private investigator to find everyone who had hurt me. The report came back, and it was almost too perfect. Jessica was divorced twice, drowning in debt, working as a struggling real estate agent, and living in her parents' basement. She had a drinking problem. Brandon had blown out his knee senior year of college, and now worked at his father's failing car dealership. He'd gained 80 pounds and was married to a woman who openly cheated on him. Whitney was a single mother of 3 by different fathers, working retail and barely making ends meet. The others from that popular crowd? Dead-end jobs, broken marriages, shattered dreams. They'd peaked in high school, and life had been downhill ever since. When I read that report, I expected to feel satisfaction. Instead, I felt nothing. Then I realized what I needed. I needed them to see. I needed them to understand what they'd created. That's when the invitation arrived. The email from the reunion committee was dripping with fake sweetness. Jessica was the organizer, of course. The message read, "Amelia, we haven't heard from you in so long. We worry you might be struggling. Please come to the reunion. We'd love to help you network and reconnect." Attached were old photos of me from high school. The humiliating ones. The message was clear. They thought I was still that broken girl, and they wanted to see it in person. Christopher read the email over my shoulder, and I could feel his anger. "Let me buy the venue and cancel the entire thing," he said. But I stopped him. "No," I told him. "I want to go. I need to go." I'd been waiting 10 years for this moment. The preparation was meticulous. I lost 15 more pounds through a healthy routine, got a $50,000 makeover, worked with a celebrity stylist. My dress was custom Valentino in burgundy silk, $40,000. The jewelry was borrowed from Harry Winston, $2 million worth of diamonds. I practiced my entrance for weeks. Christopher arranged for our helicopter, a security team, even photographers. We planned every detail like a military operation. Then I discovered something that made it even sweeter. Jessica had specifically chosen the venue because it was next to the trailer park where I used to live with my aunt. She wanted to rub my face in my past. She had no idea she'd just given me the perfect stage. The night of the reunion, our helicopter circled the venue 3 times. Everyone could hear it. When we landed on the rooftop helipad, I stepped out into the wind, my hair blowing perfectly, Christopher behind me looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Our bodyguards flanked us as we descended the private stairs to the ballroom entrance. My hand was trembling. Christopher leaned down and whispered in my ear, "You've already won. Now make them feel it." The doors burst open and everything stopped. The music, the conversations, everything. 200 people turned to look at us, and I watched their faces transform from curiosity to shock to disbelief. Jessica's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Brandon's jaw actually dropped. Whitney started crying immediately. The whispers started like wildfire. "Oh my God, is that her?" "That can't be Amelia." "Who is that man?" Christopher's arm was around my waist, possessive and proud, as we glided to the center of the room like royalty entering their kingdom. Jessica recovered first. She always was good at performing. She approached with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Amelia, so glad you could make it. You clearly had work done. Good for you." She was trying to undermine me, to plant seeds of doubt in front of everyone. "So what are you doing these days? Still working at that diner?" Her friends snickered. I just smiled calmly and said, "Jessica, you look exactly the same." The room understood the insult immediately. Christopher stepped forward and extended his hand. "I'm Christopher Hayes, Amelia's husband." Someone gasped. "The Christopher Hayes? The billionaire?" Jessica's face crumbled. Brandon pushed through the crowd, his beer gut prominent, trying to act friendly. "Hey, Amelia, remember me? We had some good times, right?" I looked at him with ice in my eyes. "How could I forget, Brandon? You poured beer on my head at graduation." His smile died instantly. Then Jessica made her move. She rushed to the laptop controlling the projector and started a slideshow. "Let's take a trip down memory lane," she announced, her voice shaking. But this wasn't a normal slideshow. It was all humiliating photos of me from high school. Fat photos, photos of me crying, the prom disaster where I stood alone. Each image was designed to destroy me one more time. The room went silent. Everyone knew this was cruel, even by reunion standards. Some people looked uncomfortable. Jessica's voice was getting more desperate with each photo. "Remember when—" She was trying so hard to pull me back down into that hell. I stood frozen as the memories flooded back. Christopher moved to stop it, but I caught his arm. "Let her finish," I said quietly. The final photo appeared. Me at prom, alone and crying. Jessica turned to the crowd with false sweetness. "See? Some people never change inside." I walked to the front of the room and took the microphone from her shaking hands. The silence was so thick it felt suffocating. "Thank you, Jessica," I said, my voice steady. "Really. Thank you." Confused looks rippled through the crowd. 10 years ago, you made me want to die. You succeeded, actually. I had the pills in my hand." Gasps echoed through the room. Jessica went pale. "But then I realized something. Your cruelty wasn't about me. It was about you. You were so empty inside, so afraid of your own worthlessness, that you needed to destroy someone else to feel powerful." Jessica's tears started falling, black mascara streaking down her cheeks. "So I decided to live, not just live, thrive, to become everything you said I couldn't be." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the projector. My company's website filled the screen, then photos of our life. Private jets, red carpets, charity galas, Christopher and me at the White House. I built a $500 million company. I married a man who sees my worth, not my dress size. I paused, letting it sink in. And Jessica? I bought this hotel this morning. I own the building we're standing in right now. The shock was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. And I know you're drowning in debt. I know you live in your parents' basement. I know Brandon works for his father and hates his life. I know Whitney's been arrested twice. I know everything about all of you because I never forgot, not for one single day. Their faces showed pure horror. Brandon looked like he might be sick. Whitney was openly sobbing. But here's what you didn't count on, I continued. I didn't come here for revenge. I saw relief flicker across their faces. I came here so you could see, so you could understand what you created. You didn't break me, you forged me. I pulled an envelope from my purse. Jessica, here's a check for $50,000. It's for an anti-bullying program I'm creating at our old high school. It will be named after every student who was bullied here, including me. Jessica was fully sobbing now, her shoulders shaking. The program will teach students one thing, that cruelty reveals weakness, not strength. I looked around the room, meeting eyes with people who had watched and done nothing. Some of you were kind, some of you did nothing, which is its own form of cruelty. And some of you? My eyes locked on Jessica, Brandon, and Whitney. Some of you taught me that the people who hurt you the most are often the most broken themselves. I handed the microphone back to Jessica's trembling hands. Enjoy your reunion. Enjoy your lives. I have a charity gala to attend. We're raising money for cancer research in my mother's name. I turned to leave, Christopher's hand finding mine. Wait! Jessica's voice cracked as she collapsed to her knees. I'm sorry! I'm so sorry! I stopped but didn't turn around. I was jealous, she sobbed. You were smart and kind and real, and I was nothing inside. I destroyed you because I hated myself. Every single day I hate what I did to you. Brandon's voice joined hers, thick with tears. We were terrible. We were monsters. You didn't deserve any of it. Whitney was hyperventilating, unable to even form words. The entire room was watching this breakdown, this moment of reckoning. I turned slowly. You're right. I didn't deserve it, and I will never forgive you. But I don't need to, because you've already punished yourselves more than I ever could. I looked at each of them one last time. Living well isn't the best revenge. Living well while you watch is. Christopher and I walked out of that ballroom, leaving behind Jessica collapsed on the floor, Brandon crying into his hands, and Whitney hyperventilating against a wall. Others stood in stunned silence, their champagne going flat in forgotten glasses. In the helicopter, as we lifted off, I was silent. Christopher finally asked, "How do you feel?" I looked down at the hotel, at those tiny figures moving around below. Empty, I admitted. I thought I'd feel victorious, but they're already broken. I didn't break them. Life did. For the first time in years, I let myself really cry. Not tears of pain, but tears of release. I wasted so much energy hating them, I said, and they're just pathetic. Christopher pulled me close. So what now? He asked. I wiped my eyes and looked at him. Now I let it go. Really let it go. 3 months later, I received an email from Jessica. The subject line read, "I don't deserve your time." I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. She'd enrolled in therapy, gotten sober, and was working 2 jobs to pay off her debts. She wasn't asking for anything from me. The email simply said, "I'm trying to be better, not for you, for the girl I destroyed inside myself when I destroyed you." I sat with that email for a long time. It didn't excuse what she'd done. Nothing could. But it explained it. Jessica had been a victim, too, of her own insecurity, her parents' impossible expectations, society's pressure to be perfect. Understanding didn't mean forgiving, but it meant I could finally close that chapter. The anti-bullying program launched 6 months after the reunion. I attended the opening ceremony at our old high school. Jessica showed up too, sitting in the back row, not approaching me. The program was already helping 50 students. One girl, maybe 15 years old, came up to me with tears in her eyes. "I was going to kill myself last week," she whispered. "Then I heard your story at an assembly. I'm still here because of you." I broke down right there in front of everyone. All the pain, all the suffering, all those years of hatred, they suddenly had meaning. My cruelty had created compassion. My suffering had given me the strength to save others. Now, sitting in our home, a sprawling estate that feels more like a sanctuary, I'm 6 months pregnant. Christopher asks me sometimes, "Was it worth it? All the pain to get here?" I look at my life now. A husband who loves me unconditionally, a baby on the way, a purpose that extends beyond revenge, and peace, real peace. Every single second of suffering brought me here, I tell him, to this. So yes, it was worth it. My phone buzzes with a message from Jessica asking if she can volunteer at the program. I smile and reply, yes. Everyone deserves a second chance to be better. The best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's becoming so genuinely happy that their opinions become irrelevant. I'm not the girl they destroyed. I'm the woman their cruelty created, and she's unstoppable. And that is how you turn pain into power. If you've ever been broken, bullied, or told you're worthless, this story is for you. Drop a comment telling me who you're proving wrong. Smash that like button if you believe revenge is living so well they can't touch you anymore. Subscribe because I bring you real stories of people who refuse to stay victims. Remember, your bullies are probably living small lives while you're building an empire. The best revenge? They don't even matter anymore. Now go out there and win so hard they can't ignore you. I'll see you in the next one, and trust me, it's even more satisfying than this.